who should win every women's basketball automatic qualifier for the NCAA tournament, NCAA Division I women's basketball tournament, who's going to win every conference automatic qualifying bid, which automatic qualifying bid is basically who wins the conference tournament in each of the 32 conferences, and the at-large bids are determined by who plays who has the best resumes, who plays the best teams during the regular season, and stuff like that. But it's kind of nice that they give a shot to every conference, even though some of those teams may not be the best teams, in the tournament. It's just kind of awesome, that they get a fair shot. And these schools have something to play for, these little schools do. But anyways, and then with especially the NIT, the B1's NIT, and these other tournaments, they have something to play for too. If you don't make the big tournament, I think it's awesome, especially for these little schools. But anyways, the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, we have Fairfield with 10-5 there first place. Siena is also 0-10. Now they're 4-2. So they've been playing really good basketball lately. So Siena could squeak by. And then you have some teams that are 4-3. But I think Fairfield's the overall winner. Why? Because Fairfield just been playing really well in conference play. And Fairfield was 3-5, now they're 10-5. They had a tough non-conference schedule, losing 5 games. Winning 3, so they've had a tough schedule. They've played really, really solid basketball, which is something you need going into the tournament, especially your conference tournament or your conference schedule. And they have 11 teams. There's Metro Atlantic conferences. They already beat 7 of 10. They've had to play, so that's a pretty good schedule. And they're already and then Siena is 4-2. So Monmouth is See if Monmouth becomes the 6th one because of COVID postponements or cancellations or something like that. I don't know. So maybe some of these teams like Siena and Monmouth might squeak by it, but who knows? Just think Fairfield's over leaps and over everyone, but Siena's peaking though at the right time though. Siena is low, so after 0-10, now 4-10, so so you never know. So some of these teams are getting hot, and they might stay hot, but but if Fairfield can beat Siena again, if they play again, or if they haven't played yet, then maybe Fairfield. Then we can see, some of these teams are hot, or near the top, So, but yeah, and then the Mid-Atlantic Conference, they used to do East and West, but now they don't. They just do one straight thing. And the top is Toledo and Buffalo. Toledo and Buffalo have not played yet this season. So, I think it might come down to that, because there are a bunch of teams who are 2-2 by Ohio, Bowling Green, and there's Akron who's 4-2, Western Michigan's 3-1. There's a bunch of teams who are pretty closely to each other. So I could see some teams being 4-3 or 3-3 or 2-3. And they're just getting tough breaks, Like Kent State, they're getting tough breaks, same with Ball State, But then I could see, but Buffalo has not lost on the road or at home yet. And they lost a couple games at neutral sites. Toledo lost a game at neutral site and 1 game at neutral site. So it's just really, really good basketball that these comes that Toledo and Buffalo play. And they're peaking at the right time. Toledo is peaking, just playing really good during non-conference, playing 6-3 non-conference, which is pretty good. Same with Buffalo playing a 6-4 non-conference. That's still pretty good. Some of these teams are just peaking at the right times during conference play. That's what you need to do. You need your peak to be during conference play. You need to play your best during conference. You can play your but if you play well during non-conference, it helps sets you up for good seed in the NCAAs, but your peak where you should play the absolute best is conference play, because even if you don't win a single non-conference game, as long as you play well in conference, that can help boost you and make it to NCAAs. So, but I think it's gonna be Toledo and Buffalo are gonna be the top. I think, but then I think if someone squeaks by and upsets one of these two, I just think both Toledo and Buffalo are gonna make it to the top. So, especially Toledo, playing 7 games, haven't lost one yet. So they've already played 7 of the 11 teams. So, so that shows you. But then we have the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. The Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference is a bunch of teams with like 2-0 and 1 record. So all of them are playing NC Central, like the 1-0 Howards, Norfolk, South Dakota, Howard, Norfolk State, and South Carolina State. And then Coppin State's played Morgan State and UMES, so Maryland Eastern Shore and Morgan State. So kind of a little unfair, to see who's really going to win this conference. Delaware State hasn't played a game yet, so I think it's really going to be unfair who wins the conference, who doesn't. But I think it's going to be who wins the conference tournament. Because there's only 8 teams, and like South Carolina State just beat in their Central. But I mean, there's a lot of these teams who are like 0-9, like 4-9, 6-5. The teams that aren't really like 1-11, 4-9, like 1-9, 5-7. Teams that aren't really the strongest teams, but they're pretty decently matched up against evenly matched teams in conference. So we'll see though. And the Missouri Valley, Illinois State is the favorite, 5-1, but just because they played one already, and then Missouri State, Southern Illinois, Indiana State. I think Illinois State could win, but I think the favorite though is Missouri State. They're the favorites because they haven't lost at home. They're 4-2 on the road, and they're 1-1 in a neutral site. In a tournament, so not regular season tournament. So, but I think Missouri State should win, unless something happens where they get upset. But otherwise, I think Missouri State's got the win pretty easily, and they made it to the Sweet 16 last year. So I think Missouri State could upset someone could beat someone in the round of 64, possibly even the round of 32. Could be like a BYU last season. Mountain West Conference, New Mexico is 6-0, Nevada is 4-1. I think Nevada, and UNLV is 6-1. But I think it's gonna. Honestly, I think New Mexico, Nevada, UNLV are gonna win the conference title. Maybe there could be a team down below that flips it. There's 11 teams, and I think there could be a team that gets upset, like someone you could upset one of these top teams in the conference tournament. But it's gonna. But if all 11 teams make it to the conference tournament, which I believe they do, so I mean, there's some teams on the bottom that are gonna have to play games, and then the teams on top will get biased. So I think that'll help them out a day. So so we'll see. Well, you never know. There could be a team that gets upsets and wins. But I think New Mexico, UNLV could make the case for 2 bids. One of these teams could make the case for multiple bids, like 2-bid league, make it a 2-bid league. Maybe UNLV, New Mexico could make a 2-bid league. Maybe even Nevada could make a 2-bid league. We'll see though. But right now, I think it's New Mexico, UNLV, and then maybe possibly someone else would have 2 bids. Another bid, depending, because your qualifications there, you have to play 25 games before the NCAA tournament. So we'll see though. So maybe these these broad conferences, the Marvel Reds. Northeast Conference. Now this is a conference that has a forfeit policy, and you can see all these teams have won a couple games, probably because of forfeits, and have lost some games because of forfeits. You can see right here. But FDU has not had any really COVID issues themselves. They've only 6-1. And then St. Francis Brooklyn 4-3, Wagner 4-3, Mount St. Mary's 4-3, Seahart 4-3, St. Francis PA 4-3. But that's a lot of these are, I think, forfeits and stuff like that. Like some teams had to play cancel game 2 because of them, and then the forfeit policies. So that's what I was thinking. All these like 4-3s are. So I don't know. So I think it's gonna be like who can win the conference tournament. I think the top 8 make the conference tournament in the Northeast Conference. So I think it's going to be who can win the conference tournament. Who can, I think it's going to be who can, because all these teams are evenly matched. I think a team could go on the road in the conference tournament, steal a game. That's what I think, honestly. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if someone does steal a game. Like St. Francis Brooklyn steals a game with St. Francis PA. Or, vice versa, one team steals another. I wouldn't be surprised one bit. Someone goes on the road and steals a game. And all the other tournaments, like I've been telling you about, are where the teams may get by, or top so many teams may get by. And they play a regular standard tournament. Except some of these conferences, the teams get double buys. Some of them get double buys. If they're in the top so many, some get single buys. So because you got to fact, so. But then there's some conferences where they get so then only so many teams play. If every team, so then every team can play single games to make the championship. But in the Ohio Valley, they do it where the 1-2 seeds get the bye to semis, the 3 and 4s get the quarterfinal bye, the 5s and 6s get by the second round, and then the 7, 8, 9, 10 that's playing the first round, which is really gonna be tough. So because of that, I think Belmont and Tennessee State have the favor right now. But I mean, Austin B and Tennessee Tech are also really strong right now. Same with Murray State right now. But I think it's really gonna be tough for the teams at the bottom. They'll play because they have to play first round is 1. You have to play 5 games to make it to the championship game. Whereas the top teams, they only have to play 2 games to make it to the top, which is to championship, which is a lot easier than having to play 5 days in a row and win 5 straight. That's just rough. So I think Tennessee State Belmont's gonna advance, but also I could see some of these teams depending on how the standings fall at the end. I'm gonna do this every so often, not every so week, but might do one middle of next month or something like that. And then I might do one before conference tournament time kicks off, just so when the seeds kick off before this first conference tournaments kick off, just so I can say who is the favorite going into these tournaments, and stuff like that. So, but I think Belmont, Tennessee State are the favorite advantage right now. But then Austin Peay and Tennessee Tech, even Murray State if they squeak in that 4. Maybe someone who's playing, who gets the 3 and 4 seed and get it by the quarters, could win. I think you could win 3 in a row and make it to a tournament. I really think you could. But then it's also going to be because some teams might forfeit. They have to forfeit games. They may have to forfeit games because of COVID. And then they're out of the tournament. It's going to be rough too. But then they might, if they can push back the tournament, the game as long as they can push back some of these tournament games. Especially if they're played at home sites, push them back a little bit, so allow the other team to make a forfeit, no forfeit, or something like that. Not have to forfeit or something like that, or We'll see though. You know. And then in Pac-12, it's really tough because there are a bunch of teams that are like battling to Stanford could win. But I think the best shot of winning the conference tournament right now is Stanford. Even though Oregon's peaking at the right time. I think Oregon though has a shot too because they're peaking at the right time in the conference. And Colorado's they're 13, they're falling out like bad. So some of these teams, I think, like Oregon. I think Oregon's peaking at the right time. Arizona's playing decently, but Arizona did get upset by Oregon. But I think Stanford's peaking at the right time. Same with Oregon. Stanford and Oregon are really solid. Stanford are really strong non-conference and a really strong conference schedule. Oregon's playing had injuries in the non-conference, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, are they for real? But they've been proving me wrong. They're for real. Arizona State now has not played a game in a while, and they beat Colorado in a convincing, in pretty good fashion and defensively. So they've been proving wrong. Arizona State showed why they're pretty solid. But I think come tournament time, Stanford and Oregon are the favorites to win the tournament. That doesn't mean make the NCAAs, but to just make like win the conference tournament, get on it, qualifier. Stanford, Oregon have the best shot. Maybe there could be an upset like Arizona or something like that. Maybe some upsets, but who knows right now. And the Patriot League top 20 teams make the Patriot League tournament. I believe it's the top 8 make the Patriot League tournament. Or top 10. Maybe all of them, who knows, but I don't believe in the Patriot League there's a neutral site. It's just play at home sites. So that's going to favor the top teams. I think Boston College is the best. And Holy Cross could beat Boston University. But Lehigh American and Lafayette, they could all win like a game or two. They could all like steal a game. Some of these teams are like 2 losses could steal a game versus someone. And that could make like the things dicier in the tournament. So I think all these teams could be dicier. In the tournament. Makes things dicey. So we'll see. But I think it's really going to go on the conference tournament. When can Holy Cross win? Or can there be an upset? And that changes dynamics, in the Southeastern Conference. Where like teams get double byes and teams get single byes. And I think it's really going to favor the top. Like right now, I think Tennessee's playing really solid. But I think to prove themselves, they got to beat South Carolina. They have to beat LSU. They did beat Ole Miss, I believe. They beat Ole Miss. And then they beat Georgia. I don't know if they beat Georgia yet, but a lot of these top teams, if Tennessee just keeps steamrolling like these teams, like beats these teams like by a few points here, a few points there, it adds up as big quality wins. And like a really stacked league, beating these teams is huge, Like if Tennessee, South Carolina meet up, Tennessee, LSU meet up, some of these really, really, really solid teams, and they beat them, and that's just huge momentum heading into the tournament, and into the SEC tournament. And then we got the Southern Conference. We got 8 teams in the Southern. But I think of these 8 teams, Wofford is 3-0. Mercer is 4-0, and UT Tennessee Chattanooga. Tennessee Chattanooga is 3-0. Furman's 2-1. I think the best shot right now is Mercer at 4-1, and they're 11-6 overall. Wofford though has the best conference record at 4-1, 3-0, but Mercer's played a little more, so I think Mercer has the best shot to win the conference tournament. But we'll see though in the Southern. We'll see though. I mean, just depends on who's the favorite, But I think Mercer is the best shot. Unless Mercer plays Chattanooga, but I think Mercer could still beat Chattanooga. in some of these teams. I think Mercer is the best shot to win. You can kind of see it in the overall records wise, but you never know. There could be an upset in the Southland. These 8 teams in the Southland. I think the best shot right now. I think it's kind of tight right now. Some of these teams, even though they don't have the best records, like 6, and 7, 8, they're still winning, finding a way to win games. So I think the best shot to win is who can prove themselves in like Texas, Corpus Commerce, Southern Eastern Louisiana, Houston Baptist. I think those top teams have to battle each other to really prove themselves today, and then someone can win against both those teams. They go into 4-0. Then I really think it can like do a momentum swing. They prove themselves. But in the SWAC, I see right now Jackson State with the best odds to win the SWAC. SWAC East. Alcorn could win. Alabama State could win East as well with 5-9. Some of these teams don't have the best records, but they're pretty even matchups in conference. That's kind of tricky. But I think Jackson State could beat Alabama State. We'll see though. Or unless they already played each other, which they might have. In Jackson State already a 5-0 record, and then Southern and UAPB could win. I don't know. It's going to be determined. It's going to be tough on this conference tournament because I think Texas Southern could win. Could squeak by Purdue, UAPB, Southern, Alabama, Jackson State. All these teams though could upset someone. And then all these conference races, a ton of pretty even, pretty tough, and then they're battling like the very end for like the seedings, stuff like that, and they could be a 6 seed overall in the tournament, but they could be like a 3 seed, and they're like the same record, or like you know what I mean. So it's like no really advantage, unless they play a neutral site or they play at home. There might not be an advantage. Even so, there might not be an advantage though to that. In the Summit League, South Dakota I think is the favorite. They already beat South Dakota State. I think South Dakota is getting votes in the AP poll, and they deserve it. You know why? I think South Dakota actually deserves to be I would rank them in my AP poll, my top 25, but I think they need to go 10-0 in conference play just to be ranked. I think they need to, and that would be 11-0 in conference play, because they would have to win 9-0. It would be this week's, and they play a game on Thursday and they play a game on Saturday, and that would make them propel them to 11-0. That would propel them to in conference. I think if they can do that, they can win. But I think what they really need to do is just to win the overall bid. I think South Dakota. I think if South Dakota State beats South Dakota in the conference tournament, maybe South Dakota could get a bid or a large. I think possibly. I think South Dakota State could beat South Dakota. Maybe, but South Dakota did beat South Dakota State in the regular season. So if South Dakota State beats twice over South Dakota, South Dakota beats South Dakota State twice in the regular season, I think it's going to be tough for South Dakota State to win the conference tournament, but it's hard to beat a team 3 times. But I think South Dakota has to go 11-0 for this to make it happen. So 9-0 today. They played their last game. They're playing at St. Thomas, Minnesota. So then South Dakota can beat They can beat St. Thomas. I think they can beat. And then they can win their next 2 conference games. Rematches at the other site. They can be in my top 25, I think. And they already gotten 4 votes in AP, so they might, if they win, they'll get like more votes in the AP, obviously. And the more they keep winning conference, the more they'll get votes. Because they played a really tough non-conference. And they were showing, and they were proving, and they did pretty well in it. Having to play South Carolina in the tournament. And having to play like Arizona. And then like the third place game, they had to play Arizona or like Louisville, like that game. They had like marquee teams, even though they didn't win. They still played really solid. Sunbelt, no, Sunbelt has like policy where there's no forfeits, no postponements. There's like cancellation. So some of these teams are like 2-1, and 3-2, 4-2. It's kind of really hard to predict like 3-2 or 2-1. Is a 2-1 team really good? Because Appalachian State could have played a game against, say, Louisiana and road that got canceled, or a game against Georgia State, or a game against like South Alabama that got canceled and not rescheduled. So it's kind of like who's playing, who's better than who. Like that's hard to tell. Like is South Alabama better than Appalachian State, or is Texas State better than South Alabama? You know what I mean? It's kind of like hard to tell, who's better than who. Because a lot of these teams have cancellation games on their record, and they don't count as like their conference or overall records. So it's kind of tough to tell, but so I think this Sun Belt is going to be determined in the tournament, just because all these teams have played like cancellation games. And that's what I think is really going to play, is if they play each other once, or if they get canceled. Both teams, they might match up twice in the regular season, and both those matchups might get canceled. So, you don't know who plays who's better than who until, like, the tournament. As if you've never played each other in the regular season, so you don't know, really. It's kind of like, so I think it's going to be Sunbelt is going to be up for grabs in the tournament. The West Coast Conference. I think who's going to win the West Coast Conference is either BYU or Gonzaga. And I think that because